right, we will call the council meeting to order. Everybody stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, take the roll.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here.
Morissette.
Here.
Wakefield.
Here.
Knutson. Here. Kennedy.
Here.
Ruck.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
All right, first up, comments from citizens present. This is your opportunity to comment on any issue that you would like that is not on the agenda for tonight. If you do have a comment, please come up to the podium, identify yourself, give your address. Please try to keep your comments brief. Try not to repeat other people's comments. So, does anybody have a comment? Any comment? Any comment? Any comment? Hearing none, close that portion of the agenda. Consent agenda.
Approve the meeting minutes from the June 17th, 2024 regular council meeting and the July 10th, 2024 special council meeting. Approve the claims in the amount of $2,243,779.75. Approve the 2023 PSC report. Approve grading and erosion control plans at tax parcel ID 236-2079-04-000 Girard Development LLC. Approve setting a public hearing for possible amendments to Chapter 14-4 Board of Appeals, Section 255-90 Creation, Organization, Powers and Duties, and Section 255-91 Variances, Ordinance 724. Approve interim city administrator employee compensation.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Roll call.
Morissette.
Yes.
Wakefield.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Kennedy.
Yes.
Ruck.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Consent agenda is approved.
Before we go on, I just want to point out that the PSC report on the water is excellent, and commend our employees on that.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, discussion and possible action to reduce the speed limit on Carmichael Road between Cooley Road and Hanley Road.
Good evening, Council. Mike Moraz, Director of Public Works, filling in for Aaron McPhee Anderson tonight. So what you have in front of you is kind of an ongoing discussion that we've had about Carmichael and the safety on Carmichael. As you know, we are getting some traffic signal upgrades finally. The project is set to start on August 4th, which will mean we'll have flashing yellow arrows at the Carmichael and Center and Carmichael and Hanley intersections, which should help with a lot of the traffic crashes that we're seeing. So as we're kind of discussing that and how that's going to affect the traffic flows, we've also been discussing internally as employees reducing the speed limit from 45 to 35. I think it may have been discussed prior, Randy.
Yep.
There was some question on the jurisdiction that we have over that road and the speed limit. It turns out it's within our municipal boundaries, so we have the authority to set the speed limit on that road to whatever we deem necessary. So with that being said, we did change the mile per hours north of I-94 to 35, past Culver's, out towards the middle school. That is 35 right now. So to kind of keep the entire stretch consistent, focusing on vehicle safety, less crashes, staff is recommending we changed kind of that whole corridor to 35 miles an hour. And then as you're heading south out of town towards Albert Street, bumping it up to 45 like you normally have. So with that being said, all of the new signs and posts would come out of the Public Works general operating budget, and staff would install them if approved. So, any questions?
This really comes out of the public safety. We would, and we've been discussing that for I don't know how many years, but it really was a consistency problem. And so, remaining consistent, this is will benefit everything up there on the whole south side. So, and just to reinstate the fact, we're focusing in on speeding and the safety of these streets in our town, city that are really getting out of control at some places. So I will move that we approve this.
Second.
Motion second to approve. Discussion?
I have a question. Thank you for the work right before the 4th of July. I know was it an electrical fire or something?
Yeah, one of our boxes shorted out and had a fire, so we were out an intersection for 5 days over one of the busiest weekends of the year. It was great.
That was great, wasn't it? Was there a fire call that night?
Nope,
No,
nope,
okay.
just a 911 call, and we got flagged and went out there and put
I know
up
that
stop signs
fire
and cones.
department was busy out on the interstate. Yes, I do listen to a scanner once in a while because I'm very close to the fire hall. I can tell when something's going on. But anyway, glad everyone's fine there. But did you have any incidents that weekend? I mean, I know that was a tough situation, a lot of traffic.
I
as far as
I
you
did
know.
not hear of any crashes at that intersection over the
Okay.
entire time that it was down, so
Good.
we were fortunate.
So pretty, as of maybe by Labor Day, you think the new electronics will be installed for turn
Yeah.
signals and so on?
Yep, and then after that's installed, and we do change the mile per hours, we're actually gonna have a company come in and retime that whole corridor, so that we try to get traffic
Really
to
nice
flow north and south,
synchronization.
exactly,
That would be
yep,
great.
yep, so,
Yeah, I'm very glad to support this because I didn't know it was that high a speed limit.
yeah.
Councilmember
Had you known.
Wakefield works right near that intersection and sees a lot of drama there.
So it's gonna be a protected arrow only, correct? The left turn from Center Drive, protected
There'll be protected
only?
arrow, but then it's gonna turn to yellow flashing.
So it's not gonna change, that's what it is now? Oh, no, it goes to
No.
green now?
Yep,
Yeah.
correct.
All right, thank you.
So you have the signal that you can turn, but with your caution, it's on you to be careful.
Correct,
It's not
yeah.
green.
But you still have the permissive arrow, the green arrow, and then it
Okay.
turns to yellow.
That'll be improvement on the whole corridor, so that's great.
Absolutely.
Great. Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks, Mike. Discussion possible action on certificate of compliance application at 2410 Gateway Court, crew car wash.
Brent, do you want to kick this one off, or would you like me to kick it off?
All means.
I see Mike's in the
Mike's
back there, and he's not rushing up, so, I'll kick it off and we can go from there. He wasn't at this meeting anyway, so.
No.
You have before you an application, for concept development plans and a certificate of compliance, submitted by Crew Car Wash. The proposals for a drive-through car wash, which is a permitted use, by certificate of compliance in the B2 General Business District. And essentially what that means is you've identified car washes as a permitted use, but subject to a level of approval by the city council. Not to the level of a conditional use permit, but to a level of a certificate of compliance. So there are considerations that you are to make regarding this particular use. And as you can see from the memo that I provided, those considerations are the protection of public health, safety, and welfare, and whether there are such conditions that may be included to permit this operation as appropriate. And so that's really the focus is health, safety, and welfare. There is a significant amount of documentation included within the concept plan, which includes the architectural plans, the civil plans, stormwater management plan, sign plan, and a project narrative. As the Plan Commission looked at this originally, it had some concerns regarding volume and particularly the impact on the intersections, and requested that a traffic study be completed. A traffic study was completed. You have that in your packet along with a letter from SEH summarizing the findings of that traffic study. The most significant concern sort of heading into this discussion was the fact that you have a restaurant on this site currently, and the proposed use is a car wash, which is a higher intensity, higher volume type use. That intersection at Gateway and Gateway is already an intersection that is strained by the density in this area. And so the Plan Commission really wanted to see what is the overall impact on that particular intersection, what's the overall impact on the intersection to the north, and what impact will this type of use have on this geographic area within the city, knowing that you already have a busy grocery store, a busy strip mall, Home Depot, and the other businesses that are here. And so as you can see from the traffic study, and it's roughly down on page, I think it was 150 or so of the packet. But typically, the engineers are looking for intersections to function at a D level is acceptable. There's already a current issue with Gateway and Gateway performing on the weekends at an F level. There's already strain on Crestview Drive and Carmichael. That intersection on the weekends functions at an E level. And so when you look at the traffic study, loading in the assumptions and the numbers that the applicant provided, so the city didn't make these up, the information and details coming from the applicant, when you add in that information and analyze it, the Gateway Boulevard intersection moves to a level E from a level D, so it becomes substandard. The weekend performance of Gateway and Gateway remains at a level F, and Crestview Drive and Carmichael Road remain at a level E. So there's additional strain that's put on that particular intersection. So there was discussion at the Plan Commission level, and there was discussion with staff and the applicant to say, well, this is simply an engineering issue, and you know, there has to be a solution out there. And we asked the applicant to provide us with what their proposed solution might be. And there's really not a solution, and that's the challenge, because you have signalized Gateway and Crestview, you have Gateway and Gateway, which is too close to Gateway and Crestview for another signal. You have the traffic that is in this area, that's already in this area, and so it's just it's a challenging situation. And so you might look at it and say, well, if there is no answer, it sort of is what it is, and we have to deal with it. Well, I mean, the answer is that for any proposed use on this site, any use is going to have to go through this process with an evaluation of the traffic impacts to really understand what that impact, what the overall impact is to the Gateway intersection, because that is, it's a challenge. And so, you know, the argument has come from the applicant to say, well, anything's going to be busier than that green mill that's there currently. And we don't know that, and we can't presuppose that, which is why we require a traffic study. It is a high volume property, and we have to deal with and address the applications that are before us. So really the only thing that's relevant at this point is that the proposal is for a higher volume use on that property with the report findings that we have in front of us. You cannot look at this and say, well, there are other car washes up there, we don't want a car wash in this location. City Council has already decided as a matter of policy that this district is an acceptable district for car washes. It's really a matter of, can you operate that type of business in that location and protect for the health, safety, and welfare of those traveling through that corridor with any conditions? Or is it so incompatible that there are no conditions that we could place on that potential use that would allow for the use to operate safely and to allow our transportation corridors to operate well to the levels that we would expect. So that was a discussion at the Plan Commission level. Randy is on the Plan Commission, participated in some of those discussions. And at the end of that discussion process, the Plan Commission voted to recommend denial of the certificate of compliance and the plan that was submitted. That, of course, is a recommendation. It comes to this body to have similar discussion and to discuss whether there may be conditions that can protect the health, safety, and welfare and allow this particular use to operate from this property. And that's the discussion that you all should have at this point. If you recommend approval, or if you seek to approve this particular certificate of compliance, that approval should be with any conditions that you see required. And by the same token, if you move for denial of this particular application, it should be with specific findings directly related to health, safety, and welfare, and the reasons that it would be impossible to place conditions which would allow this type of use to function from this property.
Was the new grocery store, which will add increased volume, was that in consideration? I didn't see that in the traffic study, because that will increase traffic on.
I don't believe that was included up, it's too far down.
I
Yeah,
know, but that is going to increase traffic. I mean,
Yep.
whether it's, we don't have, that's going to increase traffic there.
it will increase traffic, although I'm not sure that it's relevant, because what the traffic engineers do is they study the existing conditions, and then they add to that the assumptions provided from the applicant, the number of vehicles that will move through their property.
But that will affect Gateway, because when traffic's coming both ways and turning on, those kind of, I think that will affect that intersection.
Yeah, it certainly has the potential to.
Well, as Plan Commission member, it was unanimous 6-0. And I will move that we, under our own ordinance 255-77, under the Public Health, Safety, and Welfare, that we deny this application as well because of the issues brought up through the traffic study on both Carmichael Road, Crestview Drive, Gateway Boulevard, and Gateway Court. Those intersections are already strained, as Nick alluded to, at a level E, which is under the operational standards by our engineering firm. So again, I move to deny this application.
We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second to deny, discussion?
Are we, I understand the question I'm gonna have is a little bit about conjecture, but what do we see working in that spot?
Well,
That's,
so that's a good question, and that's part of the discussion that we had at the Plan Commission. We don't know, frankly. Could another restaurant come in? It could. Could a business that operates at different hours that don't affect the traffic circulation and the intensity of the use of those intersections come in and have a different impact? It could. All we can do is evaluate the use, the potential use that is in front of us. And that's the argument that the applicant would make, is to say, well, any use is going to create a similar issue. And I think any high traffic, any any use with a degree of intensity, like a use that requires traffic circulation through that site, is going to create a challenge. That being said, we don't know what the optimal use for that site is. All we can do is evaluate what is brought to us. And the evaluation that you've received from your traffic engineer would indicate that that intersection goes to a level E and a level F, which are below your operating standards at a level D with this particular use. So unfortunately, we can't answer what the optimal user looks like for this particular site, but it may also depend on what happens with some of the properties around that site as well. If there's other redevelopment, if there are changes in use and intensity, it is going to be a challenge that we're going to have to work through moving forward. There's absolutely no question about it.
Because it's more about continual traffic than people stopping at an establishment, and then you have fewer cars coming and going, as opposed to the car wash where, since it's a drive-through, it'd be more of a continual traffic.
It's about trips, it's about stacking time, it's about how you get through those intersections. And part of the issue is when you look at left turns and right turns, that intersection is close to that signalized intersection just to the north. And so because those intersections are in relative close proximity to one another, if you are headed south and you are waiting to turn east and you've got other cars that are coming to the north from the south, it's going to take some time to get through there. And so the more vehicles you put into that intersection, the more challenging it gets to use that intersection. And city council may look at it and say, well, it is what it is. You know, it's challenging, but it's a busy location and people are going to have to drive slowly and they're going to have to expect longer wait times.
Any of us that have been up down there any Saturday, any time, it's nuts trying to get across or turning left out of the county market parking lot to the lights. Facing north, you risk getting hit. And short of signalizing those intersections, I don't think there's anything else right now.
And that's too close to do that.
No, and because it would make stacking
Yep.
all the way back, so.
Well, here's another hypothetical. You go first.
No, go ahead.
Well, a hypothetical, I'm curious what our rating is right now. The traffic study, I mean, nobody likes to hear Ds, Es, and Fs. I mean, that's worrisome. That's a really busy intersection. We all know it. Randy, you've attested to it a number of times. I mean, I don't know if there's another 3-lane left turn signal in western Wisconsin. In a lot of places in Wisconsin, there's probably nothing like that, you know, in terms of what people need to be heads up, what to do, what lane to get in, to make a safe means to get back on Carmichael, if that's a choice they're making. So it is very challenging, and I am concerned, as you mentioned, Councilmember Brooke, about what else could go there and what can we do there safely, and it's challenging. I agree, and I am definitely concerned about the traffic safety and the traffic load, because it's already difficult. It's moving slowly, and that tends to lead to people doing things maybe irrationally or, you know, acting out to try to get somewhere faster and worried about traffic safety.
You bring up a good point with the 3 lanes turning left. It's like, that is very unusual.
wild.
And-
Yeah.
And then the traffic signal between, the distance between the traffic signals is very short, which adds to the confusion as well.
Well, we've talked about how, you know, that whole Carmichael corridor and then now adding this to it is just, you know, it needs a rework. It needs the state to invest in it. We don't have that right now. So, you know, based on what was already decided, I respect that. But kind of to answer, Nick, what you said, you know, there's got to be a way. There's got to be a solution. Because of all the turns, usually it's the people taking lefts in front of oncoming traffic. Just to throw it out there, because this is going to hit us over and over and over until we find a use for that property or other properties, like you said. Could we ever redesign that corridor, Gateway, and making that a one-way? So it pulls people off of Crestview, or maybe the other way around, but that would eliminate a lot of left and right turns into each other. And that would, again, believe it or not, I'm not an engineer. But it would keep people from jamming that same intersection they just came from and kind of do a clockways around to get back onto Carmichael.
So we actually talked about that as staff as to whether that might be one of the options. And maybe it could be in the future. That would impact the other businesses that are in that circle. So you've got Arby's, you have the oil change, you've got Milwaukee Burger. And so, you know, that's really probably a larger discussion with those business owners as to whether you could do a one-way and make it work. We also discussed the potential to do a cul-de-sac in there so that it's not a through road necessarily, or that there be some other configuration. So, you know, are there potential solutions out there? There are potential solutions. I'm certain a developer isn't going to want to, or an applicant isn't going to want to undertake the entire reconstruction of Gateway, or, you know, pay for the entire solution, which means it's probably more of a global neighborhood solution to bring together those business owners to figure out, you know, would a one-way kind of from north to south or from south to north work? Could that alleviate some of the strain and the stress? You know, potentially it could. I'm sure the city would have to study it to figure out what the impact would be on Gateway Boulevard. But it just, that's not part of this application at this point. So, you know, if that is a takeaway for this potential applicant to say, not as configured currently, but perhaps if Gateway Court were reworked in some way, we're not opposed to the use. It's just the matter of dealing with these intersections, and we just can't add that volume at that point. That's probably a fair takeaway for this particular location.
Anybody else?
I had one other comment that I just wanted to thank the staff for providing us with this document. I had not seen that before. The development packet that goes out to incoming or interested parties who want to do a development project, development review information. I thought that was helpful for us to see as council members what applicants or potential developers are looking at in the packet they receive. I like the thoroughness of that. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks. All right, anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Approve conditional use permit at 1007 Pearson Drive, Hudson Healing Massage, LLC.
Good evening. Feels good to be sitting in the back again. So Hudson Healing Massage, obviously the staff report is pretty brief and to the point in terms of what they're looking at operating. As a massage business, open 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., looking at 30, 60, and 90-minute sessions, Swedish deep tissue, reflexology, and other treatments. They did have a neighborhood meeting on May 30th. There were no other property owners in attendance, and then there was also a public hearing at the July 2nd Plan Commission meeting where no public comments were made, and we've not received anything up until that point or until from neighboring properties or owners. But understanding that this has been a topic of discussion in the past in terms of ordinance revisions and things, it's understood that further conversation may need to take place with the council before final approval or consideration. So I don't
Kind of tailed off there, Mike.
I don't know what else to, there's not much else to add.
Well, let me just say this. Okay, so this was on consent calendar originally. It was proposed to be on consent calendar. I pulled it from consent calendar just to make a couple comments. And it has really, not in opposition to this at all, but just to let the owner know that we have had, as Mike pointed out, and as I wanted to point out, will point out, that we've had problems in town here before with massage parlors. And they could be healing, they could describe themselves any way they want, use the adjectives that make it sound polite and nice, but we know that we've had issues with some of these establishments. And we are not gonna tolerate that. And so if anybody's thinking about coming in here and having that type of massage parlor, healing parlor, it won't be tolerated. Now, since I pulled this, or decided rather that it was not gonna be on consent, the issue has pretty much been addressed here by the owner and the owner of the property, Dave Robson, who provided us with this language for the contract, and I appreciate that, Dave. So it has nothing to do with the issue. The issue's fine, but I just want to put, a little warning out there. We're watching.
I had a question, just watched on the River Channel, the Plan Commission discussion of it, and I know it was brought up that should we be having a one-year review for the conditional use permit? I believe it passed as is, because that's how it was presented to Plan. Is that your recollection,
Yep.
members of? So I guess that is one idea. We could insert that in if we thought we wanted to have a one-year review.
Sure.
I'm not
Mike?
proposing that, but I
Yeah,
just heard that.
absolutely.
As a discussion point.
In fact, what we've done in the past is we've done 6-month reviews.
For any type of business or particular
No,
ones?
for any type of I'm not exactly sure. if
Just
it's
a conditional use.
permit, where we've asked people, where neighbors might have some objections to what is being proposed, and so to accommodate, their feelings on that, we've had this where it might be a 6-month.
I think we need to be careful, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, we need to be consistent in when we're putting these restrictions in. We can't cherry pick each, can we?
Well, you should.
It's not fair to the applicant, and we know the developer well enough in this community. I don't think he's gonna tolerate any monkey business.
You should be consistent, but at the same time, you have the opportunity on a case-by-case basis to include specific conditions that relate to the particular use. So you should have the same type of conditions for like uses, but if you do have concern and you want to review a conditional use permit at any point, you can write that into the conditions. That being said, you can always review a conditional use permit. You can always notice and request that the applicant appear before the council. So if there are concerns, certainly you would notify David as the owner, but you would notify the conditional use permit holder and have them come in, and you can ask some questions at any point. So, sometimes we do it just as check-ins. You identify a 1-year check-in review so that it happens. Other times, it's more of a, we approve it, but know that we can call you back here at any point to review the conditions of your permit.
Agreed, but going forward then, every one of these type of particular businesses will need the same scrutiny.
I would scrutinize them the same way, yes. Yeah, if that's your policy, I would include a review for each one, right?
Yep.
They,
Identify yourself, please.
David Robson, I'm the building owner at 1007 Pearson Drive, sorry. And the lease is a 5-year lease, and if the police have an issue there, have them call me. I'll terminate the lease based on the terms of the lease, period. And you can always come back and review it, as Nick said. So I will watch, you will watch, and if there's an issue, it'll end, period.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks, David. All right, anybody else?
Well, I just wanted to say that my understanding of what was going on at the Plan Commission, or from the staff's perspective, that this already was a facility very similar use. A lot of times they require, if we're giving a conditional use permit for the first time, new property, new build out or whatever, we're gonna check on those folks in a year. And so I kind of accepted that the staff was saying, well, there's already been a massage business in that location, and therefore they don't need the annual checkup. So I'm certainly not suggesting that we have to have that. I just wanted to reflect on how the discussion had gone that I witnessed from the Plan Commission. And it is true, it's in an established, very successful strip mall, whatever you want to call it, small mall area where, they, I'm sure, work cooperatively, and management is on top of things, what's going on there. So again, that was my only comment. I certainly understand why the staff went ahead as they did and recommended approval.
I'll move we approve, and I appreciate the mayor's point, and I think the concern has been brought attention to it, and I'm hoping that's all it needs.
Second?
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you all.
Yep. Convene in a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 19.85 sub 1 sub C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically potential employment of the city's finance director.
Move to go into closed session?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into closed session. Roll call.
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knutson?
Here, yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
She's both.
Fruck?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Motion's approved. We are now in closed session. See you across the hall.
Sir?
Way to go.
All right, we are back in open session.
Move to direct the city administrator to rescind the director of finance position as discussed in our closed session and reopen the position.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. I don't have anything. Anybody? Other than hope everybody had a nice, safe 4th of July weekend and saw those magnificent fireworks that we had.
They were good.
Nice. Move to adjourn?
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Easy, Randy.